My wife asked for a divorce on a Tuesday. Not because Tuesday mattered, not because the calendar had any significance, but because that was the day she finally decided I'd served my purpose. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals, where our kids had done homework, where we'd signed mortgage papers 20 years ago. She had her laptop open, documents already prepared. "I think we both know this hasn't been working for a while," she said. Her name was Linda, 46 years old. Blonde hair she'd started highlighting more carefully in the past year. Gym membership she actually used now. A whole new wardrobe of clothes that fit better than anything she'd worn in the last decade. I looked at the screen. Divorce petition. Already filled out. My name spelled correctly. Our address. The date of our marriage. "How long have you been working on this?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "I'm curious." She closed the laptop. "A few months. And you're just now mentioning it." I wanted to be sure. I sat back in my chair. The kitchen smelled like coffee. Linda always made a pot at 3 in the afternoon, some habit she'd picked up recently. Everything was recent with her. New habits, new schedule, new life that somehow didn't include me anymore. "There's someone else," I said, not a question. She didn't flinch. "Yes. Anyone I know? Does that matter either?" I'm still curious. "His name is Derek. We met at the gym." Of course. The gym. Where she'd been spending 4 evenings a week for the past 8 months. Where she'd suddenly developed an interest in personal training and nutrition coaching and all those things she'd never cared about before. "How long?" 6 months. I did the math. She'd been planning the divorce longer than she'd been sleeping with him, which meant Derek wasn't the cause. He was just the excuse. "The kids know," she said. That one hit harder than the affair. "When did you tell them?" "Last month." Our son was 24. Our daughter was 22. Both of them out of college. Both of them living their own lives, but apparently still close enough to Mom to get the news before Dad did. "And they said what exactly?" Linda stood up, poured herself more coffee. Didn't offer me any. "They understand." "Understand what?" "That people grow apart, that marriages end, that life moves forward." The way she said it sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced this conversation. Maybe with Derek, maybe with her therapist, maybe with both kids on a group call I wasn't invited to. "So you've all discussed this." "We're adults, Michael. Yes, we discussed it." Michael. Not Mike, not honey, not any of the things she'd called me for 2 decades. Just Michael, formal, distant, past tense. I stood up, walked to the window. Our backyard looked the same as always. Grass that needed mowing, fence that needed painting, the swing set we'd never taken down even though the kids hadn't used it in 15 years. "When do you want me out?" I asked. "There's no rush." "Yes, there is." She didn't argue. "I can be gone by the weekend," I said. "The lawyer said we should establish separate residences as soon as possible." "You already have a lawyer." "Yes." "Just you? Or did you get me one too?" "You'll need your own." I turned around, looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd known for 25 years, who I'd married when we were both 25, who'd had my children, who'd built a life with me, and I realized I didn't recognize her anymore, not because she'd changed physically, but because the person standing in my kitchen was someone who'd made a plan, who'd consulted lawyers and therapists and children and God knows who else, who'd prepared documents and timelines and strategies, all without me. "I'll pack tonight," I said. "Michael, it's fine. We can talk about—" "There's nothing to talk about." I walked past her, headed upstairs. She didn't follow. Our bedroom looked different. I hadn't noticed before, but now I saw it. Her side of the closet reorganized. New sheets on the bed, pictures on the dresser rearranged so mine were facing the wall. She'd already started erasing me. I pulled out my old military duffel bag, started filling it with clothes, didn't fold anything, just grabbed and stuffed. T-shirts, jeans, underwear, socks, the basics. My phone buzzed. Text from my son, Jeremy. Mom told me, I'm sorry. Not, I heard you and Mom are splitting up. Not, are you okay? Just acknowledgement that he already knew, that this was old news to him. I didn't reply. Another text. This one from my daughter, Ashley. We should talk soon. Also not surprised. Also already informed. Also treating me like someone who needed to be managed. I turned my phone off. Finished packing. 2 duffel bags. Everything I actually needed fit in 2 bags. 20 years of living in this house and I could leave with 2 bags. I carried them downstairs. Linda was still in the kitchen. Still drinking coffee. Still acting like this was a business transaction. I'll come back for the rest later, I said. There's no hurry. Yes, there is. I walked out the front door, threw the bags in my truck. A 2015 Ford F-150 I'd bought used 3 years ago, paid cash, registered in my name only, started the engine, looked back at the house one time. Linda was standing in the kitchen window, watching me leave. No tears, no regret, just watching. I backed out of the driveway, and I drove. I ended up at a Motel 6 40 miles away. Not because it was nice, but because it was cheap and anonymous and exactly the kind of place where nobody asks questions. The room smelled like bleach and cigarettes. The TV got 8 channels. The bed felt like sleeping on cardboard. Perfect. I sat on the edge of the mattress, stared at the wall. My phone was still off, which meant no calls, no texts, no emails, no connection to the life I'd just left. I kept it off, unpacked 1 bag, left the other by the door, hung up 2 shirts in the closet that smelled like mothballs, put my toothbrush in the bathroom that had rust stains in the sink. This was home now. I walked to the window, pulled back the curtain. The parking lot was half empty, a few trucks, a sedan with out-of-state plates, nothing interesting. Across the street was a diner, open 24 hours according to the neon sign. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. I locked the room, walked across the parking lot. The diner was exactly what you'd expect. Booths with cracked vinyl, laminate tables, a waitress who looked like she'd been working there since 1987. Sit anywhere, she said. I took a booth in the back, ordered coffee and a burger. Didn't look at my phone because it was still off. The burger came fast. Tasted like every other diner burger I'd ever eaten. The coffee was burnt. I drank 3 cups. When I paid the bill, the waitress asked if I was passing through. Something like that, I said. She nodded. Didn't push. I walked back to the motel. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Still smelled like bleach. Still had the same 8 channels. Still felt like a place where lives came to pause. I lay down on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in 20 years, I had absolutely no idea what happened next. I stayed at the Motel 6 for 3 days, not because I couldn't afford better, but because leaving would require a plan, and I didn't have one yet. On the 4th day, I turned my phone back on. 63 missed calls, 47 text messages, 18 voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them, just looked at the names. Linda, Jeremy, Ashley, Linda's mother, Linda's father, Jeremy again, Ashley again. Numbers I didn't recognize, all within 72 hours. I opened the text from Jeremy first. Dad, where are you? Then Ashley. Please call me back, we're worried. Then Linda. We need to discuss financial arrangements. Nothing about being sorry, nothing about reconsidering, just logistics and worry and the assumption that I owed them information. I deleted everything. Then I called my bank. The automated system confirmed what I already suspected. My checking account balance was exactly what it should be, but the joint savings account had been emptied. $43,000. Gone. I hung up, called back, spoke to a human. When was the withdrawal made? I asked. Let me check. Saturday morning, 9:47 a.m. 2 days after I left. And it was withdrawn how? Wire transfer to another account. What account? I can't disclose that information, sir. It's my money. It's a joint account. Both account holders have equal access. I thanked her. Hung up. Linda had cleaned out our savings the first chance she got. While I was sitting in a motel room eating diner burgers, she was making sure I couldn't access anything we'd built together. Smart. I'd have done the same thing. I opened my laptop, logged into our credit card accounts. 2 of them were closed. The third had a new billing address, not our house, an address I didn't recognize. I Googled it. An apartment complex, downtown, new construction, the kind of place with a gym and a rooftop terrace and rent that cost more than our mortgage. Linda had already moved on. I closed the laptop, opened my phone contacts, found the one person I knew wouldn't ask questions. Tommy, army buddy. Hadn't talked to him in 5 years, but we'd done 2 tours together, the kind of friendship that doesn't need maintenance. He answered on the second ring. Mike? Yeah. Not yet. What's going on? I need a place to stay, short term, maybe a month. Where are you? Nevada. Come to Seattle. I've got a spare room. I don't want to impose. Shut up. When can you get here? 2 days. See you then. He hung up. I packed my bags, checked out of the motel. The clerk didn't ask where I was going. I got in my truck, and I drove north. Seattle was cold and wet and exactly what I needed. Tommy's place was a small house in Ballard, 2 bedrooms, a workshop in the garage. He worked as a machinist, made custom parts for boats, cash business, no questions asked. Stay as long as you want, he said when I arrived. I stayed for 3 weeks. During that time, I didn't contact Linda, didn't call the kids, didn't respond to any messages. My phone kept buzzing. I kept ignoring it. Tommy didn't ask about my situation, just gave me a key, showed me how the coffee maker worked, told me to help myself to anything in the fridge. We fell into a routine. He worked in the garage during the day. I drove around Seattle, learned the city, found a gym, started running again. At night, we'd have a beer, watch whatever game was on, talk about nothing important. It was the most peace I'd had in years. But on day 22, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Michael? A woman's voice. Older, familiar. Who is this? It's Patricia, Linda's mother. I sat up. Linda's parents and I had always gotten along. They were good people, reasonable, kind. Hi, Patricia. Michael, I wanted to call and apologize. That surprised me. For what? For not calling sooner. For not standing up for you when this all started. You don't owe me an apology. Yes, I do. What Linda did was wrong. The way she handled this was wrong, and Richard and I should have said something. Richard was her father, retired engineer, quiet guy, good man. It's not your fault, I said. She's our daughter, but that doesn't mean we agree with her choices. I didn't know what to say to that. Where are you? Patricia asked. Somewhere else. Are you safe? Yes. Michael, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but Linda's been trying to reach you. I know. She's worried. She emptied our savings account. Silence on the other end. I didn't know that, Patricia said quietly. Now you do. Michael, I have to go. Please take care of yourself. I will. I hung up. Tommy was standing in the doorway. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push either. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the spare bedroom, stared at the ceiling, thought about Patricia's call. Linda was worried, not sorry, not regretful, worried, which meant she wasn't worried about me. She was worried about what I might do. And that's when something shifted. For 3 weeks, I'd been running, hiding, licking my wounds like an injured animal. But I wasn't injured. I was angry. And anger, when controlled, is useful. I got out of bed, opened my laptop, started making a list. Everything I knew, everything I suspected, every detail that didn't quite add up. The timeline of the divorce, the affair with Derek, the kids knowing before I did, the savings account, the new apartment. I wrote it all down. And then I started asking questions. Why did Linda move so fast after I left? Why did the kids side with her immediately? Why did she empty the account within 48 hours? What was she afraid I'd find? I worked until sunrise. By the time Tommy woke up, I had a plan. Not revenge, not yet, but the beginning of something. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? I spent the next week gathering information, not hacking, not spying, just looking at what was already public. Property records, court filings, business registrations, social media profiles people forgot to lock down, everything you can find if you know where to look. Linda had moved into that downtown apartment. Lease in her name only. Started 2 months before she filed for divorce, which meant she'd been planning this longer than 6 months, longer than her relationship with Derek. She'd been planning this for close to a year. I found Derek's Facebook profile. Public. Not even privacy settings turned on. He was 38, personal trainer, divorced 3 years ago, 2 kids he saw on weekends, posted a lot of motivational quotes and shirtless gym selfies. Not competition, just convenient. I scrolled through his photos, found one from 4 months ago, Derek and Linda at some restaurant, her hand on his arm, smiling like they'd been together forever. The comments were interesting. So happy for you both. You deserve this. About time. About time. Like people had been waiting for Linda to leave me. I checked who'd commented, recognized a few names, Linda's yoga friends, her book club, people I'd met at parties and barbecues over the years. All of them knew before I did. I closed the laptop, sat back, thought about what that meant. Linda hadn't just planned the divorce, she'd socialized it, made sure everyone in her circle knew the narrative before I did. And what was the narrative? I opened Facebook again, searched Linda's profile. She'd unfriended me, but her posts were public. I scrolled back 6 months. Lots of posts about self-care, personal growth, finding yourself, breaking free from patterns that no longer serve you, therapy language, carefully crafted to sound empowering without actually saying anything specific. Nothing about me, nothing about our marriage. Just vague implications that she'd been suffering in silence, and finally found the courage to leave. I checked Jeremy's profile next. He'd posted something 3 weeks ago. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is support someone's decision to choose themselves. 94 likes, 23 comments, all supportive. Ashley had shared it. I closed the laptop again, leaned back in my chair. The picture was getting clearer. This wasn't just a divorce, it was a PR campaign. Linda had positioned herself as the victim, the woman who'd stayed too long, who'd finally found the strength to leave. And I was the implied villain, the pattern that no longer served her, the weight she'd been carrying. Never said explicitly, but understood by everyone who mattered. Smart, really smart, but incomplete. Because if I was the villain, why was she calling me? Why was her mother apologizing? Why did Patricia say Linda was worried? Villains don't worry people. They make people angry, resentful, relieved to be rid of them. Worried meant something else. Worried meant Linda had miscalculated something. I opened my email, scrolled back through the last year, found what I was looking for. An email from Jeremy, sent 8 months ago, asking about the family business. My father had started a small construction company in the 80s. I'd taken it over when he retired, built it into something bigger, commercial contracts, steady income, good reputation. Jeremy had worked there summers during college, knew the operation, had always said he might join full-time someday. The email was casual, just asking how things were going, whether I needed help, whether there might be an opportunity for him. I'd replied that business was good, but I wasn't hiring family. Wanted him to build his own path. He'd never brought it up again. I opened my bank account. The business account. The one Linda didn't have access to. The balance was exactly where it should be. But when I checked the registered officers with the state, something was different. My name was still listed as primary owner. But there was a second name now. Jeremy Michael Thompson. Added 3 months ago. I sat very still. Checked the business license. Same thing. Checked the federal EIN registration. Same thing. Jeremy was now listed as co-owner of my company. I called the state business registry. I'm checking on a filing for Thompson Construction, I said. What do you need to know? There was a change of officers 3 months ago. I want to know who filed it. Let me look. Okay, the change was filed online. Electronic signature. Whose signature? Michael Thompson. You, I assume. And it was filed when exactly? September 14th, 2:17 p.m. September 14th. I was home that day, working in my office. Linda had been home too. I thanked the clerk, hung up, opened my desk drawer, found the folder where I kept all the business documents. The notarized form authorizing changes to the business structure was missing. I'd signed it months ago. Standard practice, something my lawyer had me keep on file in case I needed to make updates quickly. Linda had known where I kept it. I leaned back in my chair. The picture was complete now. Linda hadn't just planned a divorce. She'd planned a transfer of assets, not illegal. Everything was technically legitimate. I'd signed the form. The filing was valid. But I'd never authorized putting Jeremy on the business, which meant Linda had forged my intent, if not my signature. And Jeremy had accepted it. My son had become co-owner of my company without asking me. And he'd done it while his mother was preparing to divorce me. I closed my eyes, breathed, felt something cold settle into my chest. Not anger, not betrayal, clarity. They'd played this perfectly, legally, carefully, with just enough distance to claim innocence if questioned. But they'd made one mistake. They'd assumed I wouldn't check. They'd assumed I'd stay gone. They'd assumed I'd accept the victim narrative and disappear quietly. I opened my laptop again, started making a new list. Not what they'd done, but what they'd left exposed. Because people who plan elaborate schemes always leave something exposed. And I was going to find it. But Tommy knocked on my door around midnight. You still up? He asked. Yeah. Want a beer? Sure. We sat in his kitchen. He handed me a Rainier. We drank in silence for a minute. You've been quiet lately, he said. Thinking. About what happened? About what's going to happen. He nodded, didn't ask for details. You need anything? He asked. A job, something cash, something that keeps me busy. I can use help in the shop. You know your way around tools? I ran a construction company for 15 years. You're hired, 20 an hour, cash every Friday. You don't have to. Shut up. You start tomorrow. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Thanks, Tommy. Don't thank me. Just show up on time. We finished our beers. I went back to the spare room, lay down on the bed, and for the first time since Linda asked for a divorce, I slept through the night. That working in Tommy's shop was exactly what I needed. Manual labor, clear objectives, no emotional complications. We made custom parts for commercial fishing boats, stainless steel fittings, hydraulic assemblies, specialized hardware you couldn't buy in stores. Tommy ran the CNC machines. I did the hand finishing, deburring, polishing, quality control. It was satisfying work. You started with raw metal and ended with something precise and functional. No ambiguity, no interpretation, just craftsmanship. We worked 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 if there was a rush order. Tommy paid me in cash every Friday, $200 a day, off the books, no questions. I saved every dollar. After 2 weeks, I had enough for a deposit on my own place. Found a studio apartment in Fremont. Month-to-month lease, furnished, all utilities included. It was small, maybe 400 square feet, but it had a bed, a table, and a bathroom that worked. I moved in on a Saturday. Tommy helped me carry up my 2 duffel bags. "This is it?" he asked. "This is it. You travel light. Learned it in the army." He looked around the studio, nodded. "You need anything, you call me," he said. "I will." He left. I sat on the bed, looked around my new home. It was the smallest place I'd lived since I was 23, and it felt perfect. No history, no memories, no reminders of who I used to be. Just a clean slate. I pulled out my laptop, checked my email. Nothing from Linda, nothing from the kids. They'd finally stopped trying to reach me, which meant they'd either accepted I was gone, or they were planning something else. I logged into the business account. The balance had dropped by $15,000. I checked the transaction history. New equipment purchase, authorized by Jeremy Thompson. Not illegal. He was listed as co-owner. He had the right to make purchases, but he'd done it without consulting me. I opened a new browser tab, searched for the equipment vendor, found their website, looked at the product Jeremy had purchased. It was a laser level, top of the line, $5,000. Retail price, $3,000. He'd overpaid by $2,000. I clicked through to the vendor's contact page, found the owner's name, ran a search. Took me 20 minutes to find the connection. The vendor's daughter was married to Derek's brother. I sat back, stared at the screen. Jeremy was funneling money out of the business, using overpriced equipment purchases, sending it to people connected to Derek. Not enough to be obvious, not enough to trigger fraud alarms, just enough to slowly drain the company while I was gone. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window. Seattle was gray and wet outside, people hurrying through the rain, cars splashing through puddles, everyone going somewhere, everyone with a purpose. I had a purpose now too. I was going to let them think they'd won, and then I was going to take everything back. The investigation dragged on for another month. During that time, I kept working at Tommy's shop, kept living in my small studio, kept existing like I'd always been in Seattle. But everything was different now. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was waiting for the IRS to finish their work, waiting for Jeremy to crack, waiting for Linda to realize she'd underestimated me. And while I waited, I kept digging. Not into the business. I'd already found everything there. But into Linda's new life. Her apartment lease was in her name only. But Derek was living there. I confirmed it through a background check. His address was listed as hers. They weren't married, weren't engaged, just cohabitating, which meant Linda was violating her lease agreement. Most luxury apartments don't allow unauthorized long-term guests. I made a note of it, kept digging, found Derek's Instagram, public profile, posted almost daily, workout videos, meal prep photos, motivational quotes, and pictures of Linda. Lots of pictures, at restaurants, at the gym, at some beach I didn't recognize. They looked happy, relaxed, like people who'd won. I scrolled through the comments. Couple goals? You two are perfect together. So glad you found each other. All from people I didn't know. Derek's friends, his clients, people who had no idea about the divorce or the timeline or what it took to get here. I kept scrolling, found a post from 2 weeks ago. Derek and Linda at some charity event, black tie, fancy venue. The caption, supporting local business owners with my amazing partner. My amazing partner, not girlfriend, partner. I zoomed in on the photo. Linda was wearing a dress I'd never seen, jewelry I didn't recognize, smiling like she'd never been married before. And in the background, barely visible, was Jeremy, talking to someone I didn't recognize, laughing, completely at ease, my son, at a charity event, with Linda and Derek. Acting like this was normal. I saved the photo, kept digging, found Jeremy's LinkedIn profile. He'd updated his job title. Co-owner Thompson Construction. No mention of me. No acknowledgement that the business existed before he was added to it. Just co-owner, like he'd built it himself. I took a screenshot, added it to my growing folder of evidence. Not for the IRS. They had what they needed. But for me, because eventually, this was going to end. And when it did, I wanted to remember exactly who these people had become. On a Wednesday afternoon, Rachel Kim called again. "Mr. Thompson, we've concluded our investigation." I sat up. And? We found evidence of intentional misrepresentation. The equipment purchases were overvalued by approximately 40%. The consulting fees were paid to a shell company with no legitimate business activity, and several smaller transactions were routed through vendors with personal connections to individuals involved in your divorce. So it was fraud. Yes. What happens now? We're referring the case to the criminal division. They'll determine whether to press charges. Against Jeremy. Against everyone involved in the fraudulent transactions. Who else was involved? We can't disclose that yet, but the referral includes multiple parties. Linda. She was talking about Linda. How long until they decide? I asked. Could be weeks. Could be months. And the business accounts? They'll remain frozen until the criminal investigation is complete. So I still can't access my own money. Unfortunately, no. Even though I didn't do anything wrong. It's standard procedure. I'm sorry. I hung up. Sat very still. This was good news. Great news, actually. But it also meant I was trapped. The business was frozen. My personal savings were limited. I couldn't afford to wait months for this to resolve. I needed to accelerate things. That night, I did something I hadn't done since leaving home. I drove back to my old city, not to the house, but close enough to see it. I parked 2 streets away, walked through the neighborhood I'd lived in for 20 years. Everything looked the same. Same houses, same lawns, same trees. But it felt foreign now, like I'd never belonged here. I stopped across the street from my old house. The lights were on. Linda's car was in the driveway. So was Derek's. I watched through the living room window. They were sitting on the couch, watching TV. Linda had her feet up. Derek had his arm around her. Comfortable, domestic, completely at ease, like I'd never existed. I stood there for 10 minutes. Then I walked back to my truck, drove back to Seattle. Didn't feel anything. The next day, I called a lawyer. Not Jeremy's lawyer, my own. His name was Paul Chen, former prosecutor. Now did civil litigation and criminal defense. Tommy had recommended him. "You need someone who understands how the system works," Tommy had said. Paul's that guy. I met Paul at his office, downtown Seattle, modern building, professional but not flashy. "Mr. Thompson, thanks for coming in. Thanks for seeing me." We sat down. He had a legal pad, no laptop, old school. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. The divorce, the business, the IRS investigation, the criminal referral. He took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he set down his pen. "This is complicated," he said. "I know. But you have a strong case." "For what?" "Reclaiming full control of your business. Possibly suing for damages. Definitely protecting yourself from any blowback." "Blowback?" "Your ex-wife's lawyer is going to argue you're retaliating. That you filed false reports to hurt your son. That this is all vindictive." "It's not false." "I know. But they'll try to make it look that way." "Can they succeed?" "Depends on the judge. But I doubt it. The IRS doesn't refer cases to criminal division unless there's solid evidence." "So what do I do?" "You wait. Let the criminal investigation play out. Then, once it's resolved, we file to remove Jeremy from the business. We also file for full reimbursement of the misappropriated funds. And if Linda tries to claim any ownership of the business in the divorce settlement, we fight that too." "How long will this take?" "A year? Maybe more." "I don't have a year." You don't have a choice. I leaned back in my chair. A year. 12 more months of waiting, watching, existing in limbo. I couldn't do it. What if I forced their hand? I asked. How? By making them come to me. What does that mean? I don't know yet. Paul leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, I need to be very clear with you. Do not do anything that could be construed as harassment, intimidation, or interference with the investigation. If you do, you'll lose everything. I'm not going to break the law. Good, because if you do, I can't help you. I stood up, shook his hand. Thanks for your time. Call me if anything changes. I left his office, walked back to my truck, sat behind the wheel, stared at nothing. Paul was right. I couldn't afford to screw this up, but I also couldn't afford to wait a year. I needed a different approach, something that would force Linda and Jeremy to act, to make a mistake, to expose themselves, and I knew exactly how to do it. I spent the next 2 days planning, not revenge, not yet, but pressure. I started by reaching out to everyone who mattered in Linda's new life. Her yoga studio, her book club, her gym. I didn't contact them directly, but I did leave reviews, honest reviews, factual reviews. Great studio. My ex-wife loves it here, helps her cope with the guilt of divorcing her husband to be with her personal trainer. Wonderful gym. Very professional staff, some of whom date married clients. Interesting book club. They read a lot of novels about women finding themselves. Very relatable for my ex-wife, who found herself in bed with another man while we were still married. I posted them on Google, Yelp, Facebook, all under my real name. Nothing anonymous, nothing illegal, just truth. Within 24 hours, they started disappearing. The yoga studio contacted Google to have mine removed. The gym did the same. But screenshots live forever, and I'd already shared them with everyone who mattered. Linda's friends, Derek's clients, people who thought they knew the whole story. Now they knew a different version. My phone started ringing that night. Linda. Over and over. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. Michael, what are you doing? You can't post things like that. It's defamation. People are asking me about this. Derek is getting calls. You need to stop. Michael, please, I'm begging you, take them down. I didn't take them down. I posted more. That within a week, Linda's social media presence changed. She stopped posting photos with Derek, stopped checking in at places, made her profiles private. Derek did the same. But it was too late. The damage was done. People had seen the reviews, the screenshots, the truth. And they started talking. I didn't have to do anything else. The rumors spread on their own. Did you hear about Linda Thompson? I heard her ex-husband is exposing her affair. Apparently she stole his business and gave it to their son. None of it was exaggerated. All of it was true. But truth, when shared widely, becomes a weapon, and I was just getting started. Jeremy cracked first. He showed up at Tommy's shop on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the middle of deburring a hydraulic fitting when I heard the bell. Looked up, saw him standing in the doorway. He looked terrible. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes. Unshaven. Tommy noticed him too. Glanced at me. I nodded. Tommy disappeared into the back room. Jeremy walked over, stopped a few feet away. Dad. Jeremy. We need to talk. Do we? Yeah, we do. I set down the fitting, wiped my hands on a rag. How'd you find me? It wasn't hard. Small city, I asked around. Resourceful. Dad, please, this has to stop. What has to stop? The reviews, the posts, the campaign you're running against Mom. I'm not running a campaign. I'm telling the truth. You're destroying her reputation. She destroyed mine first. That's not... Yes, it is. She told everyone I was the problem, that she needed to leave me to find herself, that I was holding her back. She built a narrative that made me the villain. I'm just correcting the record. By humiliating her publicly? By being honest? Jeremy ran his hand through his hair, looked around the shop like he was searching for something. I can't access the business accounts. I can't pay my rent. I can't even buy groceries. I'm broke. Should have thought about that before you stole from me. I didn't steal. Yes, you did. I thought you wanted me on the business. Did you ask me? Mom said. Mom lied. He stared at me. You really believe that? I know it. Dad, she wouldn't. Jeremy, stop. You're not a child. You knew what you were doing. You knew the divorce was coming. You knew I'd be gone, and you took advantage of it. That's not fair. Life's not fair. He took a step closer. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I trusted Mom. I'm sorry I didn't ask you first. I'm sorry for everything. Now please, stop this. No. Dad, no. You don't get to apologize and make this go away. You committed fraud. You're going to face the consequences. I'll go to jail. Maybe. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with justice. He stared at me for a long time. Then he said something I didn't expect. You've changed. Yes. I don't recognize you anymore. Good. The person you knew was weak. He let people walk over him. He tried to keep everyone happy. I'm not that person anymore. What are you now? Someone who doesn't lose. Jeremy shook his head. This isn't winning, Dad. This is just cruelty. Then you shouldn't have been cruel first. He turned to leave, stopped at the door. Ashley wants to see you. Why? Because she's worried about you. Tell her I'm fine. She won't believe me. Then she can call me herself. She has. You don't answer. Then she doesn't need to see me badly enough. He left without another word. Tommy came out of the back room. That your kid? Yeah. Rough conversation. He made his choices. So did you. I looked at Tommy. You think I'm wrong? I think you're committed. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I've got. We went back to work. Ashley called that night. I answered. Hi, Ash. Dad. Her voice was tight, almost breaking. Please, you have to stop this. Stop what? You know what? The reviews, the IRS thing. Jeremy is falling apart. Jeremy committed fraud. He made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. Fraud is intentional. Dad, please. Ashley, why are you calling me? Because I'm worried about you. No, you're not. You're worried about Jeremy and Mom. You don't care about me. That's not true. Then where were you when Mom filed for divorce? Silence. I didn't know she was going to. Yes, you did. She told you a month before she told me. She asked me not to say anything. And you chose her over me. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She was my mom. She needed support. And I didn't? Dad, you weren't there. You didn't see how unhappy she was. Because she didn't tell me. She told everyone else. But not me. She tried. No, she didn't. She planned. She strategized. She built an exit strategy. But she never once tried to fix things with me. Ashley was crying now. Dad, I don't want to lose you. You already did. Don't say that. It's true. You chose sides. So did Jeremy. You both chose Mom. That's fine. But you don't get to come back now and pretend you're neutral. I'm not pretending. Yes, you are. You want me to stop hurting Mom so your life can go back to normal. But my life isn't normal anymore. It never will be. So no, I'm not stopping. Dad. I hung up, turned off my phone, sat in the dark. Ashley was the one I'd thought might understand. She'd always been more thoughtful, more empathetic. But she'd chosen Linda anyway. They all had. And now they wanted me to forgive them, to let it go, to be the bigger person. But I wasn't interested in being bigger. I was interested in being even. The criminal investigation moved faster than I expected. 2 weeks after Jeremy showed up at the shop, I got a call from a detective. "Mr. Thompson, this is Detective Sarah Ortiz with the King County Fraud Division. I need to ask you some questions about your business." "I already spoke with the IRS." "I know, but we're conducting our own investigation. Can you come in for an interview?" "When?" "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'll be there." The police station was downtown, gray building, institutional. Detective Ortiz met me in the lobby, mid-40s, professional, no warmth. "Thanks for coming in." "Of course." She led me to an interview room, similar to the IRS setup: table, chairs, recording device. "I'm going to record this. Is that okay?" "Yes." She pressed a button. "This is Detective Sarah Ortiz interviewing Michael Thompson regarding case number 4729B. Mr. Thompson, can you state your full name and date of birth for the record?" I did. "Mr. Thompson, I've reviewed the IRS referral and your previous statements. I need you to walk me through the timeline again. Start with when you first discovered Jeremy was listed as co-owner of your business." I told her everything. The same story I'd told Rachel Kim. The same facts, the same timeline. She took notes, asked clarifying questions. "And you never authorized Jeremy to make purchases on behalf of the business?" "No. But he had legal authority to do so. He had access, but not authorization." "What's the difference?" "Access is mechanical. He was listed as co-owner, so the bank let him make transactions. Authorization is consent. I never consented to those specific transactions." "But you did consent to him being co-owner?" "No. I signed a form authorizing structural changes to the business. Linda used that form to add Jeremy without my knowledge." "Can you prove that?" "The form was notarized months before Jeremy was added. Linda had access to it. She filed the change while I was living in the same house. I didn't know about it until after the divorce was filed." "That's circumstantial. It's factual." She leaned back. "Mr. Thompson, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a complicated case. The transactions were questionable, but proving intent is difficult. Jeremy claims he thought he had your approval. Linda claims she was acting on your prior authorization. Unless we can prove otherwise, this might not go anywhere." "What about the overvalued purchases? The shell company? The connections to Derek?" "All suspicious, but not necessarily criminal. So they get away with it." "I didn't say that." She leaned forward again. "Here's what I need from you. Do you have any direct evidence that Linda or Jeremy discussed these transactions in a way that shows intent to defraud?" "No." "Any emails, text messages, recorded conversations?" "No." "Then we're going to have a hard time building a criminal case." I sat very still. "So that's it. They steal my business, and nothing happens." "I didn't say nothing happens. Civil court is still an option. You can sue for damages. You can sue to remove Jeremy from the business. But criminally, this might not meet the threshold." "What would it take to meet the threshold?" "A confession, or documented evidence of conspiracy." "And if I can get that?" "Then we reopen the case." I nodded. "Thanks for your time, Detective." "Mr. Thompson, one more thing." "What?" "Your ex-wife filed a restraining order request yesterday." I stopped. "On what grounds?" "Harassment. She claims you've been posting defamatory content online and creating a hostile environment." "Everything I posted was true." "That's for the court to decide. There's a hearing next week. You'll need to be there." "I'll be there." I left the station, walked to my truck, sat behind the wheel. Linda was escalating. Good, because so was I. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I showed up early, dressed in a suit I'd borrowed from Tommy, looked presentable, professional. Linda was already there, sitting with her lawyer, David Brennan, the same one who'd called me before. She looked nervous, kept glancing at the door, avoiding eye contact with me. I sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, waited. At 9 a.m., the judge entered. Middle-aged woman, sharp eyes, no nonsense. Case number 29447, Linda Thompson versus Michael Thompson. Petition for restraining order. Brennan stood up. Your Honor, my client is seeking a restraining order against her ex-husband based on a pattern of harassment and intimidation. What kind of harassment? Mr. Thompson has been posting defamatory content online about my client. He's left negative reviews at businesses she frequents. He's contacted her friends and family with false information. And he's created a hostile environment that has caused her significant emotional distress. The judge looked at me. Mr. Thompson, do you have representation? No, Your Honor, but I can speak for myself. Go ahead. I stood up. Your Honor, everything I posted online was true. I didn't defame Mrs. Thompson. I stated facts about our divorce. She had an affair. She filed for divorce. She put our son on my business without my knowledge. These are documented facts, not defamation. Did you post these facts publicly? The judge asked. Yes. Why? Because Mrs. Thompson spent months building a narrative that portrayed her as the victim and me as the problem. I was correcting the record. By leaving reviews at her yoga studio? By sharing the truth in public forums? The judge looked at Linda's lawyer. Do you have evidence of defamation? Brennan handed her a folder. Copies of the reviews Mr. Thompson posted, screenshots of social media posts, witness statements from people he contacted. The judge reviewed them. Took her time. Mr. Thompson, these reviews are inflammatory, but not false. That's not the standard for harassment. You don't have the right to damage someone's reputation just because you're angry about a divorce. I'm not angry. I'm holding her accountable. By embarrassing her publicly? By telling the truth publicly. The judge set down the folder. Mr. Thompson, I understand you're upset, but this behavior is inappropriate. I'm granting a temporary restraining order. You are not to contact Mrs. Thompson directly or indirectly. You are not to post about her online. You are not to go to any location where you know she will be. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Violation of this order will result in contempt charges, possibly jail time. I understand. Good. We'll revisit this in 30 days. She banged her gavel. Linda looked relieved. I didn't feel anything. I walked out of the courthouse. Linda and Brennan were standing near the entrance, talking quietly. Linda saw me, looked away quickly. I kept walking. Brennan called after me. Mr. Thompson, a word. I stopped, turned around. What? My client would like to discuss a settlement. There's nothing to settle. I think there is. The business, the divorce, the ongoing hostility. We can resolve all of it. No. You haven't heard the offer. I don't need to. Mr. Thompson, your client stole my business, put our son on it without my knowledge, funneled money out of it to her boyfriend's family, and now she wants to settle? She's willing to remove Jeremy from the business, return the misappropriated funds, and sign a clean divorce agreement. In exchange for what? You drop the IRS complaint. You stop posting online. You move on. I looked at Linda. She was watching me now, waiting for my answer. No, I said. Mr. Thompson, she doesn't get to steal from me and then negotiate her way out of the consequences. Think about this. I have. The answer is no. I walked away. That night, I got a call from Paul Chen. I heard about the restraining order. Word travels fast. It's a small legal community. Are you okay? I'm fine. You violated the order yet? No. Good. Don't. I won't. Michael, I need to ask you something. What's your end game here? What do you mean? You've got Linda on the defensive. Jeremy's facing potential criminal charges. The business is frozen. But what happens when this is over? What do you actually want? I thought about that. I want them to understand what they did. They already understand. No, they don't. They think this is about the divorce. It's not. It's about the betrayal. And when they understand, then what? Then I'm done. Are you sure? Yes. He paused. Michael, I've seen cases like this before. People who get so focused on revenge that they lose sight of what they're fighting for. Don't become that person. I'm not looking for revenge. Then what are you looking for? Justice. Those aren't always the same thing. In this case, they are. He sighed. All right. Just be careful. I hung up, sat at my kitchen table, stared at nothing. Paul was right. This was about more than justice. It was about making them feel what I felt, abandoned, betrayed, disposable, and I wasn't going to stop until they did. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Ashley. Please don't block me. I need to talk to you. I stared at the message, almost deleted it, but didn't. Replied instead. About what? About Jeremy? He's not doing well. Not my problem. Dad, please. He's talking about hurting himself. I stopped. Read the message again. Is that a threat? No, it's the truth. He's depressed. He can't sleep. He's not eating. Mom is worried he's going to do something stupid. Then she should get him help. We're trying. But he keeps saying it doesn't matter, that you're going to destroy him anyway. I'm not destroying him. The legal system is holding him accountable. Dad, he's your son. He stopped being my son when he stole my business. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. She didn't reply for a long time. Then, what happened to you? I stared at the question. I got tired of being a doormat. You were never a doormat. Yes, I was. I let your mother walk all over me. I let you and Jeremy side with her without question. I let everyone treat me like I was the problem. Not anymore. So you're just going to destroy all of us? I'm going to hold you accountable. That's the same thing. No, it's not. She stopped replying. I set my phone down. Felt nothing. Ashley was trying to manipulate me, using Jeremy's supposed mental health crisis to make me back down. It might have worked a few months ago, but not anymore. Because I'd learned something important. People who betray you will always find a way to make you the villain when you fight back. And I was done caring about being the villain. 2 weeks later, the IRS closed their investigation. Rachel Kim called me personally. Mr. Thompson, we've completed our review. And? We're not pursuing criminal charges. I sat up. Why not? Insufficient evidence of intent. Jeremy claims he believed he had authorization. Linda claims she was acting on your prior consent. Without proof to the contrary, we can't prove fraud beyond a reasonable doubt. What about the overvalued purchases? Suspicious, but not necessarily criminal. Could be explained as poor business judgment. And the shell company? Dissolved before we could investigate it fully. So they get away with it. We're unfreezing the business accounts. You can resume operations, but you'll need to resolve the ownership structure through civil court. That could take years. I'm sorry, that's all we can do. She hung up. I sat very still. The IRS was done, which meant the legal pressure was over, which meant Linda and Jeremy had won. Not completely, but enough. I logged into the business account. The funds were there, minus the $40,000 Jeremy had stolen. I could operate again, hire people, take contracts. But Jeremy was still listed as co-owner, and without a criminal conviction, removing him would require a lawsuit, which would take months, maybe years. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window. Seattle was gray outside, rain falling steadily. I'd been here for 3 months, and I was right back where I started, fighting for something that used to be mine, but not anymore. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sue Jeremy. I wasn't going to fight Linda in civil court. I wasn't going to spend years trying to reclaim something that had already been poisoned. I was going to do something else, something they wouldn't expect, something that would end this permanently. I called Paul Chen. Michael, I heard the IRS closed the case. Yeah. I'm sorry. Don't be. I have a different plan. What kind of plan? I'm selling the business. Silence. Michael, you can't sell a business you only partially own. I can sell my share. To who? To whoever wants it. Jeremy won't agree to that. He doesn't have to. I own 51%. I can sell my share to a third party. Jeremy can either buy me out or deal with a new partner. That's aggressive. That's strategic. Who are you selling to? I don't know yet, but I'll find someone. Michael, this ends now, Paul. One way or another. I hung up, opened my laptop, started searching for buyers. This was the final move, and I was going to make sure it hurt. Finding a buyer took less than a week. His name was Richard Kowalski, 58 years old, retired contractor, looking for one last project before he fully stepped away from the industry. We met at a coffee shop in Seattle. You're selling your share of a construction company? He asked. Yes. Why? Personal reasons. And the other owner? My son. He won't be a problem. Richard studied me. You two have a falling out? You could say that. And you're selling to spite him? I'm selling because I want out. Same thing. I didn't argue. Richard leaned back. What's the company worth? Gross revenue last year was $2.3 million. Net profit about $400,000. And you're offering 51%? Yes. What's your asking price? $300,000. He whistled. That's below market. I know. Why? Because I want this done fast. No negotiation, no delays. Richard nodded slowly. And if I buy your share, what happens to your son? He can either work with you or sell you his share. What if he doesn't want to do either? Then he's stuck with you as a partner. I'm practical. When can we close? 2 weeks. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. We shook hands. I walked out of the coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in months. This was it. The end game. Jeremy would either have to work with a stranger or buy me out at market rate. Either way, I'd get my money, and he'd learn what it feels like to lose control. I didn't tell anyone about the sale. Not Paul, not Tommy, definitely not Linda or Jeremy. I just waited for the paperwork to go through. 2 weeks later, Richard called. We're ready to close. Where? My lawyer's office, tomorrow at 10. I'll be there. The closing took an hour. Richard's lawyer reviewed everything, made sure the sale was legitimate, confirmed I had the right to sell my share. I signed the documents. Richard handed me a check. $300,000. Pleasure doing business with you, he said. Likewise. When are you going to tell your son? I'm not. He'll find out when you contact him. Richard laughed. You really don't like him, do you? I don't know him anymore. I left the lawyer's office, walked to my truck, sat behind the wheel, stared at the check. $300,000. Not as much as the business was worth. But enough to start over. Enough to disappear again. But I wasn't going to disappear. Not yet. Because there was one more thing I needed to do. I called Linda. She answered on the second ring. Michael? I need to see you. The restraining order? I know, I'm not violating it. I'm asking you to meet me. Neutral location, public place. Silence. Why? Because we need to talk. About what? About the business, about Jeremy, about everything. Michael, I don't think... Linda, please, one conversation, then I'm gone forever. Another pause. When? Tomorrow, noon. That park near your old house. Fine. But I'm bringing Derek. No, you're not. Michael, just you. Or I don't show up. She hesitated. All right, just me. I hung up, sat back. This was it, the final confrontation, and I was ready. The park was empty when I arrived. Cold afternoon, gray sky, no one around. I sat on a bench near the playground. The same playground where Jeremy and Ashley used to play when they were kids. Felt nothing looking at it. Linda showed up 10 minutes later. She looked older, tired, like the past few months had aged her. She sat down on the opposite end of the bench, kept distance between us. Michael. Linda. We sat in silence for a minute. Why did you want to meet? She asked. To tell you I sold the business. She turned, stared at me. You what? I sold my share. To a man named Richard Kowalski. He's Jeremy's new partner. You can't do that. I already did. Jeremy will fight it. He can try. But the sale is legal, final, done. Michael, this is over, Linda, all of it. The business, the marriage, the family, it's over. She looked like she might cry. You're really doing this? Yes. Why? Because you took everything from me, so I'm taking it back. Not the business, not the house, not the life we built. I'm taking my control back, my power, my self-respect. By destroying Jeremy? By setting him free, he can buy Richard out, or he can learn to work with a partner. Either way, he'll learn what it's like to deal with consequences. You're cruel. I'm just. Those aren't the same thing. They are to me. Linda stood up. I don't know you anymore. Good. The person you knew was weak. I'm not weak anymore. She started to walk away. Stopped. Michael, I'm sorry. For all of it. I handled this badly, I know that. But I never wanted to hurt you. Yes, you did. You just didn't want to feel guilty about it. She didn't reply. Just walked away. I sat on the bench for another hour. Watched the sky get darker. Felt the cold settle in. And realized I was done. Not with the anger. That would probably never go away. But with the fighting. Linda was right. I'd become someone she didn't recognize. Someone I barely recognized. But that person had survived. And survival was enough. I drove back to Seattle that night. Didn't look back. Didn't call anyone. Just drove. When I got to my studio, I found a note taped to the door. Jeremy stopped by. Said he needs to talk to you. Call him. Tommy. I crumpled the note. Threw it away. I wasn't calling Jeremy. Whatever he wanted to say didn't matter anymore. I'd made my move. Sold the business. Set the final play in motion. Now I just had to wait for the fallout. The fallout came faster than I expected. Jeremy called the next morning. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Dad, what did you do? Richard Kowalski called me. Said he owns 51% of the company now. Said you sold it to him. Why would you do this? This was our business. Ours. You can't just sell it to a stranger. Call me, please. I deleted the message. Ashley called an hour later. Dad, Jeremy is losing it. He's talking about suing you. Mom's lawyer is getting involved. What's going on? I answered this time. I sold my share of the business. To who? A man named Richard Kowalski. Why? Because I wanted out. So you just destroyed Jeremy's future? I gave him a choice. Work with Richard or buy him out. He can't afford to buy him out. Then he'll work with Richard. Dad, this is insane. No, it's fair. How is this fair? Jeremy stole my business. I'm taking it back, on my terms. By selling it to a stranger? By making sure he never controls it. Ashley was quiet for a long time. You've really changed. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. Good. She hung up. I set my phone down. Felt nothing. This was what winning felt like. Not satisfaction, not happiness, just emptiness. But that was fine. Because emptiness was better than humiliation. 3 days later, Linda called from a blocked number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. What? Michael, we need to talk, in person. No. Please, this is about Jeremy. I don't care. He's planning something. That stopped me. What kind of something? I don't know. But he's been meeting with lawyers, talking about challenging the sale. He's desperate, Michael. Not my problem. It will be if he does something stupid. Like what? Like trying to prove you weren't mentally competent when you sold the business. I sat up. On what grounds? Emotional distress, the divorce, the IRS investigation. He's going to argue you made the sale under duress. That's ridiculous. Is it? You sold a $2 million business for $300,000. Any court is going to question that. She was right. I'd sold too cheap, too fast. It looked vindictive, which it was. But vindictive doesn't mean incompetent. Let him try, I said. Michael, if he succeeds, the sale gets reversed. Richard Kowalski sues you for damages. You lose the money and the business. So what do you want? I want you to negotiate with Jeremy. Sell him your share directly. Cut Richard out. End this before it gets worse. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, you lose everything. I've already lost everything. No, you haven't. You still have your dignity, your money, your freedom. Don't throw that away out of spite. This isn't spite. This is justice. Michael. I hung up, but her words stayed with me. Jeremy was going to challenge the sale, which meant I needed to move faster. I called Richard. Michael, I was just about to call you. Why? Your son's lawyer contacted me, said the sale was invalid, that you weren't of sound mind when you signed the documents. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. You were perfectly competent. I have witnesses, lawyers, documentation. Good. But Michael, I need to ask you something. Did you sell me this business because you wanted out, or because you wanted to hurt your son? I thought about that. Both. That's what I thought. Is that a problem? For me? No, I got a good deal. But for you? Yeah. It might be. Why? Because if a court decides you acted out of malice instead of business judgment, they can void the sale. On what grounds? Fraud, misrepresentation, bad faith. I didn't defraud anyone. You sold below market value to spite your son. That's bad faith. So what do? You fight, or you settle. I'm not settling. Then you fight. He hung up. I sat at my kitchen table, stared at the wall. This was escalating beyond what I'd planned. Jeremy wasn't going to accept the sale. Linda was coordinating his defense, and I was about to get pulled into another legal battle. But this time, I wasn't just fighting for the business. I was fighting to keep what I'd already won, and I wasn't going to lose. The next morning, I got a summons. Jeremy was suing me. Grounds, undue influence, emotional duress, and fraudulent transfer. He wanted the sale reversed, and he wanted damages. I called Paul Chen. I got the summons. I saw, this is aggressive. Can he win? Maybe, depends on how you present in court. What does that mean? It means if you come across as vindictive, unstable, or emotionally compromised, the judge might rule in his favor. And if I come across as calm and rational, then you have a good chance. When's the hearing? 3 weeks? I'll be ready. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing, not just legally, emotionally. I needed to be calm, controlled, rational. I couldn't let them see the anger. I practiced in front of Tommy. You sold the business because, he prompted, because I wanted to retire and move on. Not because you wanted to hurt Jeremy? No, that was a side effect, not the goal. Good, remember that. I practiced until I believed it. The hearing was in downtown Seattle. Small courtroom, Judge Williams presiding. Jeremy was there with his lawyer. Linda was sitting behind him, so was Ashley. Derek wasn't there, probably warned to stay away. I sat with Paul. The judge entered. Case number 52891, Jeremy Thompson versus Michael Thompson. Petition to void business transfer. Jeremy's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client is seeking to void a business transfer made by his father under emotional duress. The transfer was made for significantly below market value to a third party with no prior connection to the business, and without consultation with my client, who holds a minority ownership stake. The judge looked at Paul. Response? Paul stood. Your Honor, Mr. Michael Thompson had every right to sell his majority stake in the business. The sale was legitimate, properly documented, and made to a qualified buyer. The fact that his son disagrees with the decision doesn't make it invalid. The judge nodded. I've reviewed the filings. Mr. Jeremy Thompson, why do you believe this sale should be voided? Jeremy stood up. Your Honor, my father sold the business out of spite. He was angry about the divorce, about the IRS investigation. He wanted to punish me, so he sold to a stranger for less than half what it's worth. Do you have evidence of this intent? He told me directly. He said he wanted me to feel what he felt. The judge looked at me. Mr. Michael Thompson, is that true? I stood up. No, Your Honor. I told my son that actions have consequences, but I sold the business because I wanted to retire, not to punish him. Why sell below market value? Because I wanted a fast sale. I didn't want to negotiate for months. Mr. Kowalski made a fair offer and I accepted it. $300,000 for a business worth over $1 million? The business was worth that when I ran it. With my son as co-owner and the IRS investigation hanging over it, the value decreased. The judge made a note. Mr. Jeremy Thompson, do you have any other evidence of undue influence or emotional distress? Jeremy's lawyer handed her a folder. We have testimony from Mrs. Linda Thompson stating that Mr. Michael Thompson was emotionally unstable during the divorce. We also have medical records showing he sought counseling for stress-related issues. The judge reviewed the documents. Mr. Michael Thompson, did you seek counseling? Yes. For what? Stress management. Related to the divorce? Yes. Does that impair your judgment? No, Your Honor. It helped me think clearly. The judge set down the folder. I'm going to rule on this today. The question is simple. Was Mr. Michael Thompson of sound mind when he made the sale, and was the sale made in good faith? She paused. I find that Mr. Michael Thompson was competent. He sought counseling, which shows awareness, not instability. The sale price, while low, is not unconscionable given the circumstances. And the buyer, Mr. Kowalski, is a legitimate businessman. Jeremy's face fell. However, the judge looked at me. Mr. Michael Thompson, I'm troubled by the timing and manner of this sale. It's clear you were motivated, at least in part, by a desire to inconvenience your son. That's not illegal. But it's not admirable either. I understand, Your Honor. I'm denying the petition to void the sale, but I'm awarding Mr. Jeremy Thompson the right of first refusal on any future sale of Mr. Kowalski's stake. That means if Mr. Kowalski decides to sell, Jeremy gets the first opportunity to buy. Paul nodded. It was a reasonable compromise. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. The judge banged her gavel. Case dismissed. Jeremy stood up, stared at me. I stared back, and then I walked out. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. This had gone on for months. The divorce, the investigation, the sale, the lawsuit, all of it because Linda wanted out, and because I refused to disappear quietly. But it was over now. The business was sold. The lawsuit was dismissed. The divorce was final. I had nothing left to fight for, except one last thing. That night, I went back to my old neighborhood, parked across the street from the house. The lights were on. Linda's car was in the driveway. So was Derek's. I sat there for an hour, watching, not planning anything, just watching. And then Linda came outside. She walked to the mailbox, saw my truck, froze. I didn't move. She walked over, slowly, stopped a few feet from the driver's side window, I rolled it down. Michael. Linda. What are you doing here? Saying goodbye. To what? To this. To you. To all of it. She looked at the house, then back at me. Jeremy told me about the hearing. You won. I know. Are you happy? No. Then what was the point? The point was to show you that I'm not disposable. I never thought you were. Yes, you did. You all did. She didn't argue. Michael, I'm sorry. For everything. I mean that. I know you do, but it doesn't change anything. So what happens now? Now I leave, and I don't come back. Where will you go? Somewhere else. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, Linda. She walked back to the house. I started the truck, and I drove away. For the last time.